So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nimal, and I think this would be the first time I am doing a subject for you all, and um, yeah, and we are meeting in a significantly different circumstances than we would normally meet. But this will have to do for now. So, given this is a significantly larger class, but I still would like to have your engagement in the class. So, if you have any questions to ask, either put that raise hand thing in Zoom or put a text message so then I can stop and let you all, whoever wants to speak, so that we don't have too many disturbances. So otherwise, keep your microphones muted for the time being. So that's that, and so we will start with an introduction to the course today. So operating systems is a very fundamental course in computing, and so we would have done computer architecture or computer organization previously. So in some ways, this will be sort of a follow-up to that and building on top of that. This is largely a theoretical based or theory based course, and as such, there's the way the course will be, the most of the content will be theory based, so it may seem slightly dry. There's not a lot of exciting practicals or anything, but that's the nature of the course. But it is a fundamental course to understand how computers work and how the underlying architecture infrastructure of computers work. And one other thing is that there could be a slight delay in my video and audio, and there is a problem like that. We'll see how that goes over time. Okay, so back to the lecture. So the first thing is, the first question would be, what is an operating system? So this is it is normally pretty hard to get answers from our students in in-person classes. At least that's what I have found. So still there's a question. So I'm not sure how that is going to be in a online learning environment. But you would know at least some examples of operating systems that you may have come across. You may have come across operating systems in the computers that you use, but also in other mobile type devices that may use. They may also have certain operating systems. So what is an operating system in those cases? So one of the common computer or desktop operating systems is Windows, or alternatively you may have Linux operating system, or there may be Mac OS or some other operating system. It's also possible. And in smartphones, you may have Android, iOS. These are what sort of some examples of operating systems that we may know. So there's someone Wakar, are you trying to say something, or is that accidentally the mic was unmuted? Okay, so looks like whoever the person unmuted is not planning on speaking. Yes. Okay, so let's continue. So those are some of the examples of operating systems that we may have. And so in that case, from those examples, what does those operating systems do in a computer? So that's the main thing that we are going to look at in this course overall. What are these operating systems and how those operating systems are made, and what are the key components of operating systems in those cases. So when we think about a computer, a typical computer that you may use, a modern computer that you may use, it may have a number of components. For example, you may have things like a single processor in a computer or multiple processors in a computer. You may have main memory, you may have hard disks, you may have printers, various input-output devices. So there are going to be a large number of hardware components in these computers. So all these hardware components are going to be part of this computer. So this is a typical computer that you may use, may have one or more of these hardware components. So when we think about a software that is running on that computer, there is a need for those software to work with this hardware. So when we say software, say we can think about an example of a web browser or an email reader or music player, or any one of these software components, software application, they may have to work with those hardware in that computer to do whatever that is necessary in that computing environment. So in that case, the software, whatever the program inside that, the code that is inside that program, needs to understand and interact with that hardware platform. So what we have is, so we will have a hardware layer, so that hardware layer is on the bottom, and on top of that hardware layer, on the very top, we may have the user programs or the programs that we may use. So between these two is where the operating system is going to sit. So the operating system is basically a program or a way of programming that is going to sit in between the hardware layer and the software layer, and it is going to interact with the user programs and the hardware and provide an interface between these two. So that is the main functionality of operating systems. So with that, one of the other questions that we may ask is, or rather you may ask is, why are we learning this subject? One of the simplest answers is, this is a compulsory module that you will have to do, so you are learning this subject. But a more serious answer could be, say if you are a programmer, for you to program for a computer, you need to know to interact with the hardware of that computer. And given that we said that hardware can be interacted through the operating system, the understanding of how operating systems are structured would be essential for someone who is needing to program to a particular hardware platform. So that is one of the main reasons that you may want to know how the underlying operating systems work in a computing environment. So it is the foundation for most of the computing activities that you may do. But one of the other things is that it could also be an interesting area of research where quite a lot of interesting things can happen. So how different types of process architectures may work with softwares and all these things, the interaction between hardware and software and all these things and related research areas can happen in, or the knowledge that you gain from operating system would help you in understanding those as well. So that is why we would learn this subject. So even though this may be not so much of an exciting subject, it is a fundamental or foundational subject that you need to know to better understand how computers work and then do whatever that you want to do. Say whether you do software engineering, whether you do networking, whether you do interactive media and all these things, the knowledge of operating systems and the underlying architecture of computers will be essential for you all to understand how better you can perform in those. So what we can see operating systems as is an easier way to expose the underlying hardware platforms to the end users or the applications. So what we have is, so when we think about a hardware platform, let's think about a normal computer. And say there are about 60 people joining in the class now, and all of you may be joining in from different computers. Some may be joining from your mobile devices, others from your computers. And quite a number of you may have computers that are running Windows, so Windows computers. So, but if we think about this subset of people, only the subset of people who are running Windows computers now in this class, how many of you have the same computer and how many variations of computers that we can have? There may be people having different specifications in those computers, different screens, different hardware platforms, different hard drives, different keyboards, different speed processors, different size of memory. So there can be a lot of variations in what is there in these computers. So what we would end up with is a lot of variations in the hardware that we have in those systems. So whatever the hardware is presented to the software layer is going to be very, very complicated when we think about a large variety of computers. So then if we think about programming in that sense, so say if you are an application developer and you are asked to write a program, and say you are the application developer who is developing these programs. So when you are developing these programs, what you would have to do? So we said like all of you are having a variety of computers now. So the computers that each one of you are using is significantly different from one another. So how we can utilize that, or how we can use that from person to person. So say if I have a particular computer, then I can think about that hardware and write a software for that. Then there's another person having a different computer, then I have to change that program to suit to that particular hardware. Then there's the third person, they have a very different hardware, so now I have to change the program again to suit their need. So this is where the operating system comes in, and what does the operating system do is, it is going to create what we can call as a beautiful interface. What we mean by that is, it is going to present the software layer above a unified look. So say if there can be say 10 different screens possible, the operating system is going to only give the interface for a single screen, and underlyingly it is going to handle the hardware details of various screens. So instead of this application programmer writing 10 different code for 10 different screens, operating system would have covered those 10 different screens, and the application programmer can only go with one screen that is given by the operating system. So that is what the operating system does. One of the main roles of the operating system is it is going to extend the available hardware and present an extended machine that is now much more simplified for the software layer. So there can be like 10 different hardwares in the computer, but for the software layer it is only a single hardware. So that is the main, or one of the main operations of an operating system, is extend the hardware layer or the ugly hardware interface into a beautiful single unified interface that can be used by the programmers and various applications. The other thing the operating system can do is what is called being a resource manager. So if you think about it, think about the program that you are using. Say again, let's think about the computer that you are using now. So you are connected to this class through a Zoom. You are connected to this class through a Zoom meeting software. So that is running on the computer. There may be some of you doing certain other things in parallel, multitasking, so to speak. So there may be a browser window that is open at this moment. There's a good likelihood that is there. You may have opened some other programs as well. So that is there as well. So in the single computer, it is possible that you are having a number of different programs running. So when these various programs are running in that computer, the resources of that computer, or the hardware of that computer, memory and input-output devices and all these things, have to be shared between these various programs. And the operating system is the one that is going to manage that in terms of giving which program is going to use which hardware resource at a particular point in time. So the functionality we can call as being a resource manager. So that is the other function or other key function of operating system, being a resource manager. So when we think about operating systems, there can be a number of versions or histories, generations throughout the time. I mean, like, it's not a history course, so you're not expected to memorize what is the first operating system and that type of a thing. But just to understand, like, at different points in time, different things have been evolving in terms of what is seen as an operating system. And one of the things that you can see here is one of the factors that is dictating in terms of the eras of operating system is the various developments in terms of the hardware. So what we can understand from that is the operating systems are in many ways going to be closely linked to whatever the hardware that we are interested in. So if we are working on a, say for example, on a mobile device, that operating system has to cater to the needs of that particular hardware platform. If we are thinking about a different architecture of hardware, then again the software is going to be, or the operating system software is going to be very relevant to that particular operating system environment. So the main takeaway is what the operating systems does is going to be closely associated with the corresponding hardware it is running on. So some of these things you may have covered in the previous courses, and from maybe even in your A levels and so on. And also it's largely sort of history kind of a thing. So we are not going to go into discussing what these things and how they work. But one of the earlier generations of computers where some notion of an operating system was present is in the beginning of batch systems that ran some type of programs, and those programs interacted with some of the underlying programs of the operating system to do something with that hardware. So that is sort of the beginning of operating systems in some ways. Then we had what is called multi-programming era. So, and multi-programming is about having multiple programs, so running in parallel and sharing the memory and resources along with the operating system. So all of these things would share the memory resources and other resources, and that will be managed by that operating system. And then we come to the era of computers and operating system that is much closer to the computers that we may be using now. So if we think about such a computer, there are a number of commonalities across all of these computers. So this is a diagram that is showing a sort of an overview of what can be there in such a computer. So one of the basic things is we will have to have a CPU that is going to do the computation. So that is the core computational unit of that computer. Then there should be some memory. Then in most cases, in most present day computers where we have some form of graphical user interface, some form of user interface interaction, we may have to have a video output generated through some video controller. We may have input devices in the form of keyboard controllers, not so much anymore. Most of the keyboards are these days connected through USBs. So we may have things like USB controllers that is connecting to printers and various input-output devices. And we may also have various storage devices, again external storage devices or internal storage devices and all these things. So there can be a multitude of hardware possibilities, and even within a single hardware sort of a category, there can be multiple variations. So for example, we may think of a display that is connected to a computer. How many various ways a display can be connected to a computer? There can be different ports, different interfaces, different connectivity possibilities, HDMI or DisplayPort, or even VGA or some older generation connectivities. So there could be a variety of variations in terms of the hardware platform that we can have, on top of which the operating systems that we are going to discuss are going to function on. Then of that, if we think about CPUs, and you may have covered some of these when you were studying computer systems organization or computer architecture, computer systems organization. those courses. So it's about how what happens in processing or in execution, what happens with the CPU when it comes to executing an instruction. So that is where we may have further granularity in terms of different hardware components or sort of hardware elements, such as like if you think about an instruction cycle, there is a fetching, decoding, and executing. We can have in a slightly different architecture, we can have multiple fetch pipelines and then multiple execute pipelines. Again, when we have multiprocessors or multi-cores that can process multiple instructions at a time. So again, those underlying hardware features will influence how the operating system can function. We will come to discussing some of these things in the latter part of this course in upcoming lectures, but the understanding is a lot of these underlying hardware details would influence how the operating system needs to be designed and functioning. Similarly, whether we have multi-threaded computers or multi-threaded processors or multi-core processors, and if you remember level 2 caches and level 1 caches and all these different architectures in terms of hardware, they will also influence how the operating system needs to deal with executing multiple programs. So whether it can utilize the different cores in parallel, or whether there is a shared cache that needs to be shared among the different programs, or whether each core has a dedicated cache. So these are different hardware considerations that you may have covered when you are studying the hardware aspects of computers, that would also influence when you think about the software aspects of operating systems. And one of the other things that would influence how operating systems can function and to what extent they can handle multiple programs, for example, is the amount of memory and how that memory is structured within those computers. We will discuss memory architecture and memory hierarchy a bit later again in the course. But again, this is also something that you may have covered from a hardware perspective in terms of why we have different types of memories, why we have much faster registers, but we cannot have a lot of them because they are expensive, and why we have other sort of magnetic disks or SSDs or so on, which can be much higher capacity than sort of main memory or RAM in a computer, and what is that and why is that. So these are some of the things that we will be discussing in the coming weeks as well when we discuss memory in detail. But that amount of memory and that memory available in that hardware of that computer will influence how much and to what extent the operating system can do or handle multiple programs and things like that. So these are some of the software side of considerations the operating system has to make, but things are influenced by what is available there in terms of the hardware. Then we can, I don't think we need to discuss about magnetic disks anymore in much more detail, but because they're still in use, but they are not the predominant or going forward, they may not be the predominant form of storage mediums, but it is still, they are used a lot. And again, operating system will have to some extent will interact with these underlying details of these hardware devices. Say, for example, again, let's think about what a programmer may have to do and what the operating system will support them is, say, we have a magnetic hard drive that has multiple platters, and they can be read and write independently or so in that case, how the operating system is going to interact when a software program is saying to read a file from that disk or write a file to that disk. These are some of the ways how the operating system will interact with these input-output devices, and again we will discuss about these in a bit more detail when we talk about input-output devices in this course. So then we can talk about input-output devices. Again, there can be a variety of input-output devices, storage devices being one, but beyond storage devices we can have keyboards, mouses, various input-output devices that are giving instructions like that. There can be video devices, video input devices, video output devices, printers. So there can be a lot of variations of input-output devices that are being connected to an operating system or to a hardware of a computer, and the operating system will have to manage things like how different software programs are communicating with these input-output devices. If, for example, if you are writing some file to a hard drive, so you are writing some file to a hard drive, and then the hard drive will let you know that it's completed or there's an issue. So how that life cycle can be managed along with additional hardware components like interrupt controllers and so on. So that is something that can be managed by the operating system as well. Then one of the other things in terms of hardware that may be relevant is because even though there could be the computer that is presented to us may be less complicated, underlyingly it could be significantly complicated in terms of the variety of ways different things are connecting to the computers, like different communication buses, different memory buses, and different ways all these different things are getting connected to the main CPU and so on. So that we will have to manage through the operating system, and the operating system will again give the software layer, the software that we may have, it will give a much more simpler interface to communicate to these variety of, for example, within a hardware of a computer we could have USB 2 and USB 3 ports, and they may need to be communicated slightly differently. So the software, a particular software doesn't have to bother about that how to communicate to a USB 3 drive and a USB 2 drive. That can be managed by the underlying operating system, and the software can just write a file or read a file and give that instruction to the operating system, and the operating system will manage the particular details of that. So when we think about operating systems and different types of operating systems, what we are thinking here is, depending on what is the core activity of a particular operating system, it may have to do certain things differently depending on what the underlying functionality. It could be both the functionality of the computer, the purpose of the computer may dictate the type of operating system, or the type of hardware that is there may also dictate the type of operating system. Say, for example, let's say one of the types of operating systems could be a server operating system. So if you think about a server operating system, one of the things that would happen in a server is it would be connecting, or multiple connections may be established to that particular server. So in that case, that operating system may have to handle multiple connections, networking connections and so on. So that particular operating system may have certain functionalities relevant to that, relevant to managing that type of connections from external nodes. So that is for a server operating system. So on the other hand, say for example, if we think about a operating system with multiple processors, multi-processor operating system, in that case, that particular hardware is having multiple processors, so that operating system should also be able to work with multiple processors to take advantage of that underlying hardware that is there. Then for example, if we think about say embedded devices or certain small handheld devices, for example, they may have certain limitations in terms of the hardware that is available in them. So that limitation may lead to us using a different operating system than what we can use in a general computer. Say for example, a typical installation of Windows on a computer may take few GBs of storage space to store that. But then we may have an embedded device, a microcontroller device that has only a few MBs of storage available in that device. So in that case, we may not be able to use the same operating system. We may have to go with a different operating system there. So that is how these different operating systems will, different types of computing systems will dictate us to use different types of operating systems. So when thinking about operating systems and underlying concepts within operating system, there could be a number of things that we may be interested in. So some of these things you will be familiar with your day-to-day use of computers. You may have come across some of these things already, and we will be studying, or we will be covering these things in the later lectures in a bit more detail to understand how those concepts are implemented in operating system. So this is largely the set of topics that we may be covering in the coming weeks, but in much more detail. So you may have come across, say, processors in computers, not processors, the hardware, the processors, the software processors. You may have come across in, say, for example, in a Windows computer. You may, if you go to Task Manager, you could see the various processors that are running in a computer. So that is the processors. Then you may know about memory. So there are different computers using different memory, and again in Windows you can see how memory is allocated to different programs and so on. Files is something, I mean, like, I don't have to explain. You should know, I mean, you would know. Then a variety of input-output devices, as I said. So these could be simple devices like keyboards and mouses, to printers, to display devices. So there could be a variety of input-output devices. Then most operating systems will also have some level of protection mechanisms or security implementation. Like for example, you may have to have a password to log into the operating system. The operating system may encrypt the files in that system. So there could be certain security protection measures within the operating system. That is something that we may come across. Then there's this thing called shell. So in the case of a Windows computer, you may go to PowerShell or command prompt. So these are programs where you can give much more straight instructions to the operating system to do various things. For example, move a file or copy a file. You can do sort of command line instructions. So most operating system may have such a shell kind of a program as well. And with one of the other things that we may observe with when we study about computers is, over time, the hardware capabilities of computers would have improved, and along with the need of operating system would have also increased. Say, for example, thinking about, say, 20 years ago, 20 years ago, I had a computer that I used for video editing, which had 64 megabytes of RAM, and I don't think we can do anything with a 64 megabit RAM computer these days. So that is the thing as well. Like, say, over time, the hardware will improve in terms of the memory, protection hardwares, various disks, virtual memories, and so on. And operating systems will also evolve to support these things. So the other thing the operating system will give or will do, one of the main things the operating system will expose to programs is what is called system calls. So these system calls are basically instructions that these various programs or softwares can use to utilize the functionalities of the operating system. Say, for example, we may have a program that needs to read a file. Say, currently I am using this PowerPoint presentation, and that PowerPoint file is saved in my hard drive, and the PowerPoint software needs to open that file and display that. So in that case, the PowerPoint can instruct an instruction. PowerPoint can give an instruction to the computer or to the operating system to say, read that particular file, and with the read instruction, the operating system will be able to give that file to that program, and the program can then use. Then maybe at the end, if I'm saving some changes, I can give a write instruction, and that write system call to the operating system, and it can save that file back. So some of the examples of system calls like that is, say, for example, you are in a program and then you want to open another program from that program. You may use some system call like forking or executing. You can do, say, for example, some of these you may be, so if you think about C programming or like some programming languages, some of these instructions may be familiar to you in terms of how you may have instructed through that program. Say, for example, you may have done C programming. In C programming, you may want to open a file, and to open a file, you may write a code that is, say, open a particular file, and that code is in turn going to go and instruct that operating system to call that operating system call to open that file. So that's how the relationship between system calls and programming would work. From programs, we would call system calls, and those system calls of the operating system will do the actual functionality of that. So the functionality will be implemented by the operating system, but it may be exposed through certain interfaces in various programs and programming languages. So there can be a variety of system calls. Say, for example, these type of file management system calls. You can do sort of creating directories, and some of these system calls may also seem familiar if you're familiar with sort of Unix, Linux commands. So these are, again, when we are issuing those sort of commands through command prompt or shell scripts or shells or anything like that, again, we are giving system calls, or we are invoking system calls through those programs. And again, even with Windows, they may have, say, the system calls that are available in Unix operating system or Linux and so on may be different from the system calls that are there in Windows operating systems. So some may be similar, some may be unique to only one operating system. So things like that. So again, some of these things we may come to discuss in much more detail in coming weeks. So when we think about operating systems, the architecture of the operating system can also differ based on how they are designed. So these are some of the variety of designs, the architecture of the computers and various components of the computers can be structured. So we will briefly look at them today, and because they are not the key thing that we'll be discussing in this course, but an understanding of those will be useful in understanding different concepts that we will be covering in the coming weeks. So the first category of the operating system or the architecture of the operating system is called a monolithic system. So when we have a monolithic system, what we have is a single centralized program that is going to be the core of the operating system. So the main operating system procedure is going to be a single program, then that may manage other additional services and processes and so on, but at the center of it there's going to be a single procedure that is going to do everything. So that is a monolithic system, a centralized program that is going to be the main operating system program, and various other services and then user programs and utilities will connect to that program through interfaces, but it is more of a centralized architecture. Then we can also have another way of structuring that is called a layered structure. So here what we may have is we may build the structure of the computer in multiple layers, and only the layer above and below will be communicating with each other. Say in a monolithic system, the connectivities can be slightly from all over the place, so different things can connect to and communicate with different things as long as there is an interface provided. Whereas in a layered system, the idea is the connectivity is much more between the layers. So these different layers, for example, the operator is the layer of the end user, for example, and we will be using the user programs, and those user programs may use some input-output management processes, and they may use other processes for communication, and then they may use memory management processes, and they in turn may use the process allocations and multi-programming level. So the system is now going to be layered at multiple levels, and each layer is going to access the layer below or above to get the function of the computing system. On the other hand, another architecture that can happen is what is called microkernels. So with microkernels, what we are going to have is not a single centralized process that is going to do everything. We may have a collection of processes that are doing various things in parallel, and they are communicating with each other, but not like monolithic kernels. There is not a single centralized component or a procedure or a process that is responsible as a centralized controller. So that is the main difference. There may be still certain sort of shared elements there, but at core there is no centralized coordinating or the procedure as they are in monolithic kernels. Another model of operation is not just thinking about a single computer. It is also possible that multiple computers can be networked and the processing of information can happen across multiple computers. Say, for example, we may have a large number of computers connected together to run a computational model or run a rendering farm or something like that. So, in these cases, what we may have is all these different computers are connected through networking. So they are connected to through a network, but they are all together running a process or set of processes with a single purpose. So they have to be managed in terms of which computer is running which instruction and so on. So in this model, one computer will become, say for example, a client, and the others may become servers, and they may do various things in terms of serving one or the other. So that is a client server model. So it's not just a single computer, multiple computers are connected together. Then one of the other things, again we will discuss in much more details towards the end of the course, is virtual machines. That is where, when we have a single hardware platform, but we want to run multiple operating systems on that hardware platform, then we may want to use different what is called a virtual machine, and that virtual machine can run multiple operating system on top of that. So a good example could be, even in normal computers, you may run a virtual box, a VMware or something like that, and you may run inside a Windows computer, you may run a Linux computer. So that is, for example, it is a what we would call a type 2 hypervisor. So you may have VMware installed, and on that you may install Linux on a Windows computer. So these are what is called virtual machines, where we use the same hardware to run a number of so that's the main sort of overview of this course and what we may be covering in the coming weeks. There is a suggested textbook for this course. It is Modern Operating Systems by Thanambam, and most of the lecture slides are based on that book as well, so it follows the similar pattern. It may not be necessary to read the whole book, but I will share a PDF of the book on LMS as well, so if needed you can use that. Other than that, whenever needed, if you are in doubt, you may refer to that, and I sometimes use the book for some references for questions and things like that, so it may be relevant in that case as well. So that's all for today. So the LMS courses there, you can access some of the previous lecture slides online as well, and as usual you can contact me through the usual means. So any other questions? So, and if there are no other questions, we can conclude the lesson today with this. And most of the lessons will be similar to this. It will not be much longer than this. It could be an hour, a little more than an hour or so. So we will not have like 2 hour. Most of the time we may not have 2 hour lectures, but sometimes depending on certain contents we may have. And one of the main reasons being there's less interaction happening, so I am finishing much earlier than I would normally do. Yeah. So as there are no other questions being asked, I will conclude the session here. Your lecture slides and the recorded video will be available on LMS, and from coming weeks we will also have some form of quizzes or things as a continuous assessment on a weekly or a fortnightly basis, only sort of short quizzes and things like that. So we will have them as well. I will give more details about that on LMS as well. So that's all for today. Thank you for joining. See you next week.